Hi, I'm Life Coach Landry, and the topic is steps to get your ex back. Okay, now some of these steps are going to depend whether you got dumped or you did the dumping, but two rules I always say that it doesn't matter what you do. If you were physically cheated on, it doesn't matter if they did it a year ago or they did it yesterday or they did it 2 years ago, or you lived with somebody for a period of a year or more and it didn't work out and you moved out, the relationship is over. It doesn't matter how good it looks now, that relationship is dead. So these don't apply to that. But if you were in a good relationship, things are going well, it had some hiccups, you eventually got in a fight, and then y'all broke up, or you went silent on them because you were upset, you technically did the dumping. These are ways to get people back and the way you should do it. Now I see a lot of videos on YouTube of people talking about doing certain things, and if you do this and that. Well, you're not playing a game here. Okay, you have to remember that you are having to adjust to the situation and accordingly so that you can get the best possible outcome to get back together. But the one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to be manipulative and you don't want to play a game here. And I see that in a lot of these videos about, oh, if you do this, they'll do that. Well, they might do it temporarily, but then they're going to realize that you did it because you were trying to craft a game to get them back, not because you genuinely did the right thing. Okay, so number one is, you do want to cut off contact with the person who dumped you. Now, you might feel the need to want to reach out to them or text them or call them or do all those kind of things. But you want to be careful with that because it's normal in the immediate onset of feeling like you've been dumped to want to say a lot of things, and then they say a lot of things back. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to end up overwhelming the situation, and that's why cutting off contact is a good idea. I always say give someone 1 to 2 days of your attention, and if they don't respond to anything in those type of messages, I would say 2 to 3 messages a day for 2 days, and then you need to move on. Okay, why are you giving your attention to somebody who's not giving it to you back? They're still in love with you. It doesn't matter if they've ignored you or whatnot. That love does not just turn off unless something tragic happened, like you cheated on them or something. But if that didn't happen, then it's better for you at this point to pull back and give them space, because they need to think about their decision and they need to feel what the idea of you really being gone feels like, and they need to see if they can accept that. And if they can't accept that, they're going to contact you back. Now, if you're the one that did the dumping, this is still number one. I'm going to do one for the dumping and the not dumping. Then you need to reach out and you need to say something significant and you need to make it count. And they need to feel like you are accountable for your situation and you want to meet to talk as soon as possible. Okay? That's really important. I'm also going to do a video on the mistakes that people make when trying to get their ex back. Right now, let's just talk about these. Number two is the worst part about a lot of the mistakes that happen are your instincts. I want to make sure number two covers, you need to watch your instincts in these situations. Your instinct is going to be want to reach out to them, rekindle it, and fix it. Now, if the other person is open to that and they respond in the first 1 or 2 days to your messages, then by all means, get to the table and work it out. That's a healthy relationship, okay? But if you get no response back, if they've just gone cold silent on you, then that's not fair to your relationship. Okay? If you haven't done anything overly bad, if y'all were just having some fights or some arguments or some disagreements or not seeing things eye to eye, and they decided to walk because of that, then they didn't value your relationship to begin with, because those type of things shouldn't be enders. Enders are when you have like a catastrophic fight and it's in person, or they catch you cheating or something. Those are catastrophic events. If you have some texting or some misunderstandings, or they just flaked on you, then that's on them, okay? So you've technically been dumped, but their behavior, isn't something that you should really want to get back with anyways, okay? Unless they're going to put the effort to fix it. So, you also want to make sure nothing tragic happened. Every once in a while, people will lie and say, oh, someone was in the hospital or not. Every once in a while, that is true. Something does happen. So you want to make sure that didn't happen. But if you don't hear from them for 1 or 2 days, and you've seen them online, or they always have their phone, well, then they've dumped you and they're ignoring you, and you need to watch your instincts, okay? That's why the no contact rule is really important in this stage. Is you need to start looking at yourself and moving on with yourself and stop worrying about what they're doing, okay? If they're not concerned with you, why are you concerned with them? You can't turn your heart off, but you can keep your life moving forward unless they're going to show you why your heart should be open to them. Okay. So when you think about that, the next thing you want to make sure you don't make a mistake about, now that you're not contacting them, and you're also making sure that you are not falling for your instincts. The human instinct is when you lose a connection to try to get it back immediately. Number 3 would be get stronger while they're weaker. Okay. So right now they're in a weakened state. They think they're in a stronger state because they've sat there and they've put their time into thinking about not contacting you, and it's been silent. But what we don't realize is that means that they've made a decision. They're having to own that decision. They're having to stand behind it. But I guarantee they're probably rethinking their decision right now. It doesn't mean they're going to call you tomorrow or anything, but it means they're unsure of their own decision. You didn't make a decision. You just got dumped. So you're just sitting there. So what you need to do is get stronger in the meantime. Work on yourself. Start working out. Get that 6-pack going. Get toned up. Start working harder at work. Start finding different ways to make more money. If you're a man, your masculinity should be purpose and focus, not sitting there being pitiful and crying and whining to a woman. Typically, the men who beg women extremely, who do pity things like, I'm going to die without you, my life can't move on, that's typically narcissistic, manipulative behavior. Now, to them, it passes for love. Right? And the bad part is that means they're going to link back up with someone who, when they don't get what they want, they go from anger to strategy to being nasty to begging to pitiful. Let those narcissistic men and even women do that. They will exit themselves out eventually. And if they can't see that if it's someone else that's come in the picture, then you don't want to be with someone that would accept that anyways, because that's horrible behavior to let back in your life. Right? So the idea is get stronger in the meantime. Okay. And while you're working on yourself, you're going to realize you're not checking your phone all the time for them. You're not doing all those kind of things. I always say about 2 weeks of detox period during this time is good. Sometimes 4, depending on how it goes. Now I get asked a lot, what if they reach out to you during this period? Should you contact them back? Well, of course, obviously you want the relationship. But when you contact them back, it's, hey, great to hear from you. You want to meet up and have coffee. You want to come over to my place and make dinner together. You certainly don't want to sit there and talk to them because you don't know what they're doing. You don't know if their other relationship has failed, so they're reaching back out to you. You don't want to be that guy or that girl to somebody. So what you want is to set something up so that you two can progress forward. Okay? So if they reach out, say, hey, great to hear from you. Let's make some dinner together. Come on over. How's 7 o'clock sound tonight? And if they turn that down, you basically just say, contact me when your schedule's free. That's it. You don't sit there and have a conversation with those people, right? Because those people, what they're doing is they keep going to someone who's a failure in their life, another guy, another woman, and that person keeps failing, and they keep coming back to you because you're that steady, strong rock who's not crying and complaining and whining and being pitiful. You're that respectful area in their life, and they know it. And that's why when all this shit around them starts to fail, they start reaching back out to you. You don't want to be the weak link in this situation. You are the stronger link. Remember, they dumped you. You might be hurt, but you're not weaker. They made a decision. They made a weak decision, and that's why they might end up reaching back out to you. Okay? So when they do reach out to you, just remember, number 4, that's what you do. Okay? Don't ignore it. The last thing you want to do is this is what you've been wanting, and then you get it and you ignore it. But there's no reason just to give them, everything you got just because they reach out to you. Okay. Number 5 is, and I want to be real clear about this. If an ex has entered their life and you found out, back away. Back away, because that ex is an ex for a reason. And they need to have time to figure out why that person is no longer valued in their life. They might think remember, when exes come back in our life, and I'm talking exes from way back in the day, we have rose-colored glasses about all the good things that we remember about that relationship. But ultimately, what we're not thinking about is why we ended that relationship. That's why I said if someone cheated on you or you've lived with them for longer than a year and moved out, that relationship is cooked. It's done. And the only way it ever looks good again is when they pop back up out of nowhere and they say everything in the world that's nothing but sweetness and light. And you'll hear things like, come on over. I promise there'll be no drama. I just want to see you. Like they're doing anything and everything, but their character is still inside them. The one that cheated on you, the one that broke up with you, or the one that, you ended up moving on from, that character is still inside them. That's not a changeable item, but they're going to convince you that it is. So if you're one of those people right now that are going through something and an ex has popped back up in the person who dumped you's life, let them do it. Don't get, don't start fretting about it and getting, worried about it and whatnot, because it's, in all likelihood, statistics show about 97% of the time when an ex from over a year ago comes back in the picture, that is going to fail. The only time that seems to hold some bearing usually are when children, they have a child with that person, and usually they say 2 or more children with that person, and they were actually married with a wedding ring on, not dating, not living together. So the 3% that do get back together after being apart that long typically have 2 or more children together and were married. Okay. So if you're one of those people watching this and you're trying to get your ex back and this is a girlfriend or a boyfriend, you obviously don't fall into that category. So if you were cheated on or in that, this is not going to work. Okay. You need to move on. You need to accept reality and move on from that person. All that person's doing is taking advantage of you when you're down and trying to make it sound like they're going to solve all your problems. Now, final thoughts on this is, if you are sitting there and you are dwelling and you're not sure what to do, go back, listen to this video multiple times. I would say watch this video 2 to 3 times to really absorb what I'm saying. This is real simple. You'll have other people that will have 30-minute videos and all these steps and all these things. It's real simple, okay? In the very beginning, when they dump you, it's okay to have communication for 1 or 2 days to try to figure out if they actually dumped you. And if you get nothing but silence, you need to go cold turkey. You need to fall off the radar to them. They don't exist anymore to you. Okay, you need to move on mentally in your head. Number 2, you need to start working on yourself and get yourself in a position to where when they return, because they will return, you need to be stronger than when they talked to you last. Okay, and that leaves me to number 3. They're in a weakened state. You need to realize that. You're thinking because they dumped you, they're in a stronger state. They're not. They have an idea in their head that they're holding on to, and it's going to crack at some point, right? And like I said, unless you cheated on somebody or something like that, love doesn't just turn off. They will call you back. They are going to make contact at some point, okay? And then, number 4 and 5 fall into your typical categories I talk about when they reach out to you. What do you do? So number 4, what do you do when they reach out? Like I said, I'm recapping. You do want to let them know that you are open to seeing them. If you still want the relationship, you might be at a point where you're stronger and you don't want it anymore. But if you still want the relationship, be willing to say something, but don't have a conversation over text. If they don't want to meet you in person when you set up a time to meet, then you just say, let me know when your schedule's, more flexible, or you're open. I got to run. I got stuff to do. Just things like that. You got a purpose. You're not sitting around waiting for their phone call or their text anymore. So think about in that kind of respect. And number 5 overall, like I said, you need to realize your situation. If they have an ex that's popped back up, if they are just hurt because of a fight, you need to pay attention to what happened and then let that sit for a little while and simmer. Okay. Because what you'll find is by the time they come back and talk to you, you want them to have enough time to think about what they did so they know what to tell you, so they can tell you how it's not going to happen again. Okay? Now, a lot of people are like, well, what's the magic bullet here? What's going to make them want me back? Well, what's going to make them want you back is space. Not talking for a little while is going to help them realize their decision. Let me tell you something. When somebody you really love, like you love them, the thought of them ultimately being gone forever, you're never okay with that when you want them back. You're only okay with it when you really are done. So if you're sitting there going, I can't believe they're not going to call back. Man, they should be thinking, man, I made a mistake. I'm never going to be able to talk to them again. If that bothers them, then they need to get back with you, and they're going to realize that. If it doesn't bother them, if they're like, you know what, I don't want that anymore. That's not for me. That wasn't what I was looking for. Then you're never going to hear from them again. But I'm willing to bet if it was abrupt, if it was out of nowhere, they're going to want to contact you again. You need to let that happen. Okay? So I hope this information was of value to you. I'm going to do a video on the mistakes on getting your ex back that typically people make. Okay? And a lot of times people don't understand the things they're doing in between these type of steps. Remember, I gave you 5 just fundamental steps. Just follow them, listen to them, watch this video multiple times. It's going to all make sense to you. And if this information was of value, click on the donation link below. Donate a cup of coffee to a guy. And if you want to contact me to work on this specifically, my email link is below, and I will talk to you soon.